Hey everybody out there in YouTube wasteland, it's your good old pal Jess, and this is a very different edition of HYOH-WU, Hike Your Own Hike, with us, the owners of the Pink Bench Distillery in Troy, Montana. Asked me if I would come in and talk about some of my adventures in the Cabinet Mountains. My first initial response was no, and then I thought about it and said, you know, I've been kind of preaching this get uncomfortable and grow mentality. So I called back and said, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I took pen to paper and started writing down some of my more memorable stories in the Cabinet Mountains. After about a month of rehearsal, what you're about ready to see is what transpired on December 14th. Enjoy or not enjoy. And also, booking information is at the end of the video. I will be available for bar and bat mitzvahs, weddings, wakes, and funerals. So tell your friends. Thanks everybody for showing up. It's really nice to be back here in my hometown of Troy. There's actually people here. I do have to perform then tonight. I know for most of you this is a heavy lift. You've all worked at some job that you probably hate. You'd probably rather be at home in the Lazy Boy Express watching some Netflix, or at the very least some type of sporting event. Blitz does have a mind of his own sometimes. Blitz it. Never work with dogs. That's what W.C. Fields said. Animals are children. Blitz it. We'll just stand. He'll stand. So yeah. So most of you would probably might be home. I don't know. Watching some sporting event in the recliner. I have you for about 45 minutes. If I had my way, I would duct tape you all to your seats and slowly talk you to death over 3 to 5 hours. I'm kind of socially awkward. I don't get a whole lot of social intercourse. I spend a lot of time in the mountains with him. He's probably my best friend. Because he wags his tail and not his tongue, makes him a very good companion. So with that being said, this is the first time I've done anything like this, so just bear with me for the first couple minutes and we will get through this. So yes, we are here. We are going to talk about some of my crazy tales in the Cabinet Mountains and surrounding areas. Some of these stories are mine. There's a couple that aren't, but they're stories that should be heard. Quick backstory. I grew up here in Troy, moved away in '87 to Libby, Montana, graduated in 1790. Maybe not, but I swear sometimes I wake up and my body feels like it's 200 years old. When I was growing up here, I really didn't understand what we had here for a playground in our backyards. As a matter of fact, the only time that I would go out into the woods was to go to keg parties. And we would drink copious amounts of Bud Light and Heidelberg beer. Now, if you don't know what Heidelberg beer is, it was the cheapest beer that you could get at the time. It said it was $3.99 for a 12-pack. And on the side of it, this red and white box, it would say everything is premium except the price and the taste. That's what they forget to mention. But we would go to cool, when we were going up here, it was really cool. We had really cool places to go party at. Places like up Rabbit O'Brien, there used to be a gravel pit. I'm not sure if it's still there anymore. We'd go up there, have parties. And then my second favorite place to go to party was at Milner Lake, right below the graveyard. She knows. Right below the graveyard. And my real job is, I work for the Department of Revenue. So yes, I am the man who shows up to your house and puts a value on your house. I'm simplifying it very, very much. These ladies know too. And so I showed up and somebody has built a trophy home where this old swimming / party spot is. I show up, of course, the owner's not home, but the caretaker is. I go marching up to the caretaker, and of course, he's dredging this area where we used to go party. And as I'm sitting there talking to him, he is pulling out old Bud Light cans, old Olympia, remember Olympia beer? Yeah, Olympia cans, and then a Heidelberg bottle. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that bottle right there is probably for me, and I apologize. I was not a forward-thinking teenager, and I feel so bad. So there's that. Then the other places where we like to go up and party when we were growing up, Remp's Pit in Libby, and a place called Pony's Point. So what I guess I'm trying to say, getting drunk and passing out at keg parties was my first introduction to the great outdoors. So there's my backstory. Every good villain needs a backstory. So let's go ahead and fast forward. It's now 2018. It is now 2018. I am dating a young girl, and she says, hey, we should hike in to Lee Lake. And she brought this up while we were sitting at the pastime bar, drinking copious amounts of alcohol. And of course, I said yes. I wake up in the morning, hungover as hell. And this is when relationship chicken starts. If you don't know what relationship chicken is, it's when you first start dating somebody and you just never say no. You say yes to anything because you want to seem interesting and adventurous and somewhat mysterious. So, of course, I wake up. Fuck. Do we still want to go for that hike? He asked, hoping she would say no. She responds, yeah, I still want to go, questioning his very fragile male ego. Of course, he responds with the male bravado of, yes, it is our mountain to climb. It is time to go. Now, on paper, Lee Lake looks like it would be an easy hike. I mean, hell, it's only 1.5 miles, but within that 1.5 miles, there's 1,200 foot elevation gain. Side note, we're going to go down a rabbit hole. I have ADHD. I apologize. There may be a few of these tonight. So, with that being said, do you know how you can tell somebody from out of state or out of town besides the license plate? Okay, they pronounce Lee Lake, spelled L-E-I-G-H, Lay Lake. And the other one that they will pronounce really weird is Kootenai. I don't know how they say it. I can't make my lips form in those words to get those out. But whatever it is, it just grates on me. It would be the equivalent. Right there. He does not like it either. But hearing those two things would be the equivalent of masturbating with a cheese grater. It's just gnaws at you. It hurts. You shouldn't do it. So, okay, back to the story where we were. So anyway, yes, Lee Lake, on paper, looks like it would be a very easy hike. So we start in. And I learned the importance of elevation gained over time and distance that day as I'm throwing up my biscuits and gravy from the morning. And so Lee Lake is a tough trail. People have died on that trail as recently as 2009 and 2020. It's a rough first hike. So with that being said, we did make the lake. Not that day. We had to go home and lick our wounds. So a few weeks later, we did arrive at the lake. And this is when I walked up to that lake and saw Lee Lake for the first time, my jaw dropped. My life was forever changed. I was like a troglodyte coming out of my cave and seeing the sun for the first time. Hey, right? Like, what the hell is going on? What is this stuff? I didn't know we had this here. And this was literally 45 minutes from my doorstep to the lake. How lucky are we? So, if you've never been to the lake, it's beautiful. You have this really ice blue lake. In the background, you have Snowshoe Peak, which is the tallest peak in the Cabinet Mountains. Then within Snowshoe Peak, you have Blackwell Glacier, which is one of the last remaining glaciers in the Cabinet Mountains. So it's very beautiful. And unfortunately, the Cabinet Mountains became my mistress. And yeah, so, but that's all right. Don't me. You know what I say? With no woman to follow, the mountains are all mine, and I love none so well as I love the alpine. So think about it that way. So out of curiosity, how many here are familiar with the Missing 411 series? So there's a few of you, right? So if you're not familiar with the Missing 411 series, it's a series of books and films, and they're written and produced by former San Jose police detective Dave Paulides. Now, these films and books document people who go missing in national parks, the wilderness areas, and national forests. And they go missing under very bizarre and weird circumstances, okay? Now, I've had the opportunity to meet Dave Paulides twice, both by accident. And the first time was in Libby a few years ago at the sporting goods store. I walked in and I see this gentleman with what appears to be his wife standing in an aisle, and I go, holy shit, I think that's Dave Paulides. You know, I'm the only one that knows who he is. I'm a fanboy. I'm kind of a nerd. And so I walk up behind him, tap him on his shoulder, and I go, excuse me, sir, are you Dave Paulides? And he turns around, takes off his glasses, and he goes, why, yes, I am. And I'm like, my name's Jesse. It's so nice to meet you. You're so cool. I love your books. I've listened to you every time you're on AM Coast to Coast. Oh, you're so great and whatnot. And, you know, and he gets talking, and he suffered me very good. Him and his wife both. We got pictures taken together. Dave is now a resident of Montana. He lives in Columbia Falls. Now, met Dave a second time just a few months ago. I was walking out of the town pump in Libby. Dave was walking in. Dave did not see me. He opens the door to come in. I'm standing there, and I'm like, Dave, good to see you, man. He jumps back, takes his glasses off, and shakes my hand. Jesse? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, oh my God, Dave Paulides remembers who I am. Dave Paulides remembers who I am. But very nice guy, a nicer guy you would be hard-pressed to meet. So if you have not read or saw any of these documentaries, do yourself a favor. They are truly fascinating, somewhat terrifying. And I bet after you read a few of the books and watch the documentaries, you may not want to go out into the woods by yourself. You may never want to hike alone. So why am I talking about Missing 411? That is an excellent question. So we've actually had a Missing 411 case here in Libby. It was a young girl, 2 years old, named Ida Mae Curtis. Small town, small county. You may know Ida Mae. You may know her relatives. You may know her siblings. So this happened in 1955, and I want to preface this story that it would be 12 years later, 1967, when the Patterson-Gimlin footage would make Bigfoot a household name. You all seen the footage at Bluff Creek. It is of Patsy. That's her name because it was a female. I mean, you can clearly see the breasts, right? So, but it's all the old footage that we've seen with the 8mm grainy footage, black and white. And it's the one where you see her, she's walking like this, and this is where we get that famous silhouette, okay? So, check this out. It's July 4th, 1955. Ida Mae's dad, Mort, is working at a logging camp up in the Lee Creek area near the Lee Lake trailhead. Now, over the weekend, they invited the family of the loggers up to celebrate the long weekend. 1:30 p.m., Ida Mae and her 9-year-old brother, Cecil, decide that they want to step away from the camp and go play. Cecil would later tell his parents that Ida said that she saw something in the forest a short distance from the clearing where they were playing. Meanwhile, the kids make it back and start playing around the camp, around the tent, and that's when they say that a bear entered the tent, grabbed the girl, and then left hopping on 3 legs. And Blitz, so the bear left hopping on 3 legs. They also claimed that they had the girl and they ran through the creek, ran through the woods. And then it was about this time too that Mort also states that he saw something carrying somebody. Now let's listen to the verbiage that he used here, because this is really weird, right? According to the papers, he gave chase to the creature, but could not keep up. They go down, they get a hold of the sheriff's office. 250 people showed up to search for Ida Mae, which is kind of cool, kind of considering the times. People came in from Spokane, from Kalispell, and of course from Troy. And it should be mentioned that a severe rainstorm and snowstorm hit the area, which kind of hampered the search a little bit. Of course, it's going to wash away some of the scent and cover up some of the tracks. Let's fast forward to the next day, July 5th, 4:30 p.m. Searchers find Ida Mae some 300 yards away from where she initially disappeared. This area had been searched at least a dozen times, and they never did find her. When they found Ida Mae kept talking about how she was held by a mama bear the night before, and was talking about the bear's breast. Weird, right? So the doctors examined Ida Mae, and by the way, they found her like in this really crude shelter that was made from cedar slashings and whatnot. Blitz, come here. Come here, bud. Come here. All right. So doctors examined Ida Mae. They found her in perfect health, no bite marks, no scratch marks, no bruising, and no ill effects from exposure, which is weird because there was a snow and rainstorm. Now, a few years ago, I had the accidental pleasure of running into one of Ida Mae's siblings. Let's say he was less impressed with the questions I had for him, and he was very amused that I knew of this story. But kind of the same thing, he said that when they found Ida, that she kept talking about the bear's teats, the breast, which, you know. So, yeah, I guess my question is, how did Ida stay warm? How did she not have any bite marks? How did she not have any scratch marks? So, once again, let's just say, what if whatever came in was a female Sasquatch, swooped her up, okay, and was holding her like an infant across the chest, like this. Okay, so I don't know. I'm not crazy. My mom had me tested, so I'm just throwing stuff out there. I would say I like a Bigfoot story just as much as the next person. And how many people in here, by just a show of hands, believe in Bigfoot? Okay. How many people in here have how many people have had an experience or even seen? Wow, nobody. Oh, okay, you've had knocking. So I would say the second most asked question that I get about backpacking solo in the cabinets is, have you ever seen one of them Sasquatches? I have never seen a Sasquatch, but I can tell you about a weird experience that I had at Cabin Lake near Thompson Falls in September of 2018. I decided that I was going to hike into Cabin Lake, go up and practice vlogging and filming. And because, in case you guys didn't know, I have a YouTube channel called HYOH-WU, means Hike Your Own Hike, with us. So please subscribe, tap the notification bell, and leave some comments down below and all the other douchey things that YouTubers say. So I hike into Cabin Lake to go up and practice vlogging, fishing, and taking photos. I love to take photographs. And I arrive at the trailhead at 9 a.m. I am the only car at the trailhead at 9 a.m. The hike into Cabin Lake itself, about 5 miles round trip. You're looking at a 1,200-foot elevation gain. A fairly simple hike. So that trail gets hit hard on the weekends. So me, being a smart guy, I take day off in the middle of the week and go up. Now I work my way I work my way up into the lake, and I find a place to take off my backpack. I reach in, get out my Lunchable, eat my Lunchable, get my fishing pole ready, and now it's time to fish. Now, generally speaking, when I backpack solo, it takes me a few minutes to get acclimated to the serenity and the silence of just the wilderness. And I can usually get settled in fairly quickly. This day, I could not. I was there for like 45 minutes, and I just felt like I was being watched. I'm sure you've all had that experience where you're out in the woods where that hair on the back of your neck's standing up. Something just didn't feel right to me. So anyway, needless to say, I'm out there fishing. I got my Panther Martin on. I got my yellow Panther Martin on with the little red dots. And I'm out there just casting away. And the fish are just jumping all over. And to be honest with you, I'm not that good of a fisherman. And when that Panther Martin hits, I'm pretty sure the fish go, yeah, it's that yellow and red Panther Martin. This is that Jesse clown. Yeah, go back to schooling or whatever. And that's how fish sound in my head. They sound like they're from Jersey or something. And so after a while of not catching anything, I'm like, yeah, it's time to just go back down to my car. I start heading back down to my car. I'm about 200 yards away from the lake, and that's when I hear something in the brush. It's making some noise, and this is scrub brush, or pucker brush, some people call it, and you just can't see through it. And of course, I stop, and I'm like, hey, bear! Because bears know when you're talking to them. They know to go away when you say, hey bear. So I make more noise to alert whatever it is in the bushes that I am there. And me being cautious guy I am, I undo the safety on my bear spray, and I sit for a while and I make more noise. This is where shit gets weird. As I start walking, whatever is in that brush starts walking with me. When I would stop, it would stop. When I would start, it would start. And this goes on for some time. And now the hairs on my neck are at full attention. They're saluting and go, dude, there is something here that doesn't want you here. So I stop. And of course, I yell, hey bear, some more. And about this time, I'd pull out my .44. And I'm thinking, this is the beginning of bow season, and if somebody's fucking with me, this is really not a smart thing to do in Montana. You will get shot. So I'm like, okay, it's safe to proceed down trail. I take a few steps. Whatever is in that scrub brush starts walking towards me, and it's probably a good 20 yards away. And I'm like, hey, you know, expletive, stop. And it takes a few more steps, and blam! I fire off a round in the ground. It did stop moving, whatever it was. And so I wait, of course, make more noise, and then I'm like, okay, it's safe to boogie on down. I pick up my pace. I do not run. Don't ever run. And I'm making my way off the mountain, and before you make the parking area, there is a wooden bridge, a very well-built wooden bridge. You walk across that, you go around a corner, it straightens out, and there is the parking lot. I make the parking lot. I see my car. I am very ecstatic that it's there, and I'm still the only car in the parking lot. So I walk over, unlock my car door, open up the hatch, take off my backpack, grab a drink of water. I'm taking my drink of water, and then that's when my asshole puckers tighter than it already is. Something starts banging on this wooden bridge. It's very loud, very aggressive, 3 loud slaps. Bam, bam, bam! You don't have to play dead, Blitz. And I honestly, I tried to muster up the courage to go see what this was, but I was like going, this is I'm here by myself. This is how shit goes sideways, Jesse. But I really want to go see what it is. No, you better not. Oh, this is how people go missing 411. So I didn't want to be a statistic. So what did I do? I got in my car. I put on my seatbelt. I stuck my key in the ignition and turned it on, put my car in drive, and bravely drove away. I did not see any clowns in the rearview mirror. So I make it to the main road. I drive to the Lolo National Forest Ranger Station. I go running up. I kick open the door, and I go up to the front counter, and I'm like, excuse me, sir, has there been any reports of any predaceous bears, tigers, lions, elephants, or anything like that? And spit is coming out of my mouth. I'm super excited. And of course, the gentleman at the counter says, well, first of all, I asked for an update, not a weather report. And no, sir, we have not had any reports of anything predaceous in that area. The only thing that we have had a report on is a grizzly bear at Angle Lake not acting right in the head. And I was like, okay. So to this day, I don't know what it is. I've had people tell me what they think it is. I've had people say, well, you know what it probably was? It's probably an elk or a moose, you see, and it was paralleling you out. It didn't want you there. And then it got onto that wooden bridge, you see, and then it started clomping with its hoofs, making noise. The best one, and I'm not making this up, the best one I got was, well, you know what it was? It was a beaver, you see. It was an angry beaver. It came up, it was just merely coincidence. It came up out of the water and started slapping its tail on the bridge and making the noise. And then so a couple years later, I go back to that bridge and I stay the night with a friend. And I purposely brought a hickory axe handle with me, and I go back to that bridge and I beat the crap out of that bridge trying to recreate that sound, and nothing I did could create that sound. It was just really, really bizarre. So that's kind of my Sasquatch story. Let's go ahead. You guys like that, huh? Let's go to the strange, to the outright bizarre. We're going to jump away from the Cabinet Mountains just for a moment, and we're going to go to Kennelty Mountain, more specifically Kennelty Mountain Lookout. Little back story of Kennelty Mountain Lookout. It was built in 1914 as a response to the 1910 fires. Ooh, what are the 1910 fires? That is a great question, Charlie Runyon. The 1910 fires was this huge-ass fire that swept across Washington, northern Idaho, and parts of northwestern Montana. It destroyed 3 million acres, killed 89 people, and did $1 million worth of damages to businesses and homes. How much is that in today's money? That would be $32 million. Estimated timber burned at that time was $1 billion. Estimated in today's money, $32 billion. So a really big effing fire, right? So, and at one point throughout the United States, after these fires, they were funded, the Forest Service was funded to build 8,000 lookouts throughout the United States. Now, due to budget restraints and better technology, only about 300 of those lookouts remain. Now, I'm going to tell you how one college student's summer dream job turned into a hellish nightmare. A young man by the name of Robert Haig was a forestry student, second-year forestry student at the University of Minnesota. Robert had this dream of coming out to Montana and working at one of our many remote lookout stations. Robert arrived at his post July 2nd, 1927. Robert's job was simply to look out across the Cabinet Mountains and any other mountains, and then report via radio back to the Raven Ranger Station. The Raven Ranger Station's about 4, maybe 5 miles away. Now, a few weeks in, Robert started acting a little kooky. Started acting a little weird, man. And what I mean is he was telling the Rangers that he was talking to his parents and they were going to send a private plane out to pick him up to take him back to Minnesota. Side note, it should be noted that doctors say that extreme isolation, the psychosis including hallucinations and paranoid delusions can occur, not including depression and suicidal ideation. Okay, let's get back to the story. Blitz, come here, buddy. You doing all right? So so back to the story. Over the next few days, madness would slowly start to creep in over Robert. Robert would attempt suicide 4 times. His first attempt, he would try hanging himself. The rope broke. Second attempt, he would take a knife and try to slice his own throat. Knife wasn't sharp enough, just left some really nasty gashes around his neck. Then his third attempt, he would drink Lysol bleach. However, there was not enough bleach, and it just made him extremely sick. But don't worry about Robert, he was all white after a few days. Dad jokes. His fourth attempt, which is the one that strikes me the most bizarre, is he took an axe and bludgeoned himself over the head at least a dozen times, leaving these nasty-looking lacerations and cuts all over his head. Imagine hitting yourself over the head with an axe. You got to be desperate. That shit would hurt. And this guy was doing it to himself on purpose. It was no accident. So after all right, so after this attempt, the Rangers just had enough of Robert's shenanigans. So on August 3rd, they go up and physically bring his ass back in. And he is crying, kicking, spitting, and screaming all the way down. He is beyond upset. He is convinced that the Rangers have taken this airplane that his mom and dad sent for him and hid it somewhere in the forest. Well, during all the commotion and the ruckus, Robert was able to get a butcher knife. And then Robert stabbed himself in the stomach, killing himself. His 5th attempt was his last attempt. So to kill yourself with a knife, to stab yourself with a knife like that, that is a very sharp decision. Okay, all jokes aside, you knew that if it was me, there was going to be some bad jokes in there somehow. This is how you lighten the mood, talking about somebody's...
Cut to the chase.
Okay, all right. So, cut to the chase. So upon doing research, this is neat. So upon doing research, I found the original obituary in Robert's hometown of Minnesota, and his parents told the newspaper that he died of heat exhaustion. And I'm here to tell you the reason they did that is because they felt embarrassment and probably shame. It was 1927. People probably didn't talk a whole lot about suicide, and they probably sure didn't talk about, mental issues. I mean, it's almost 100 years later, and it's still a stigma. It needs to get better. It really does. So I want to play devil's advocate for a minute. What happens if this wasn't a suicide? Hear me out, and here's my hypothesis. So anybody that knows this area knows that from April to about mid-July, it is wood tick season. And I'm here to tell you from experience, you go up into Kennedy Mountain area, exploring, hunting and everything, you're gonna come back with a few critters on. You're gonna have some wood ticks hanging out, okay? Guaranteed that's gonna happen. And then so, doing more research, I found that Rocky Mountain spotted fever was discovered or introduced in the area in 1897 in Snake River Valley, Idaho. So for 1927, a relatively new disease. It was so bad here in Montana that in 1928, they would build Rocky Mountain Labs. That name might sound familiar a little bit. They built it down in Hamilton. Rocky Mountain Labs got a little press during this thing we had a few years ago. You might remember it, COVID. Okay, so the symptoms of Rocky Mountain spotted fever are this: diarrhea, nausea, not heartburn, but diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, and fever, hallucinations. Gestation period for Rocky Mountain spotted fever, 2 to 14 days. All this coincides with Robert's symptoms. So what I'm saying is, what if this wasn't just a normal suicide? He was just went undiagnosed and was extremely ill and extremely sick. I don't know. Just one of my theories, one of my crazy theories. So, how are you guys doing out there? Good, good. You guys got time for one more story? And I will release you. I will let the blood return to your ass and have feeling. But I want to ask you guys first, this one's does get a little graphic. You guys okay with that? Eh? All right, then this is on you. This is all on you then. So when one starts backpacking, one should go in with the idea that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. You may say, well, Jesse, this is a very pessimistic attitude. I say, quite the contrary, my friend. I'm very, very optimistic that shit's going to turn sideways at some point. One such example is this. About 5 years ago, I went hiking with a girl, and we hike into Cedar Lakes. Cedar Lakes itself is about 11-mile round-trip hike, about 3,200-foot elevation gain. It's kind of a grind because it never, there's really no switchbacks or anything, and it never really levels out. It's just constant all the way up. And this hike started like any other hike does, with a significant other that's just not that into it. It was a lot of complaining, a lot of huffing, a lot of puffing. It was awful. In between all that, I was able to find some peace. I was out doing my stupid stuff, vlogging, taking pictures, and of course, just finding peace in what is the Cabinet Mountains wilderness. About 4 miles into the trip, we'll call her Gertie. Gertie started complaining, which was par for the course. However, this day she was complaining about pains in her nether yaya, thank you, Chaucer. And of course, me being sensitive male that I am, respond with, it's probably just your period pains. No, it's not! So, I know my body. Okay, so we eventually make our destination lower Cedar Lakes. Cue angel sounds. Thank you. And we take off our backpacks. I head down to the lower lakes. Gertie goes to answer a call of nature, so I thought. And I'm at the lower lake, and I am just looking at, look at that Dome Mountain, man. That is just awesome. That is beautiful. Did you see that trout? That freaking trout jumped up there and came back down. Oh, over in the distance. Oh, look at that little hoary marmot skirming out there. Oh, what's that? Whoo! What's that? An owl? this day is awesome. It couldn't get any better. I have found my peace. I am grounding with the earth. Me and Mother Nature are one. Bam! My moment of Zen was destroyed by the screams of help. I, of course, go running up to where we had unloaded, and I'm like, what's the matter? What's the matter? What's the matter? I see Gertie. She has the look of fear and worry in her eyes, and she is she's just ghost white, pale. And that's when she tells me that she's bleeding uncontrollably from her lady parts. Me, being the problem-solving, sensitive male I am, respond with, just get a tampon or something, put a cork in there, whatever. I don't have one! So I have this 80-pound backpack that is just full. I, like most new hikers, packed my fears with me. I called it the bag of infinity. That's for any of you who are nerds and play Dungeons and Dragons, you would know what that is. So I am going through my bag of infinity. The first thing I pull out is this heavy-ass AM/FM D-cell battery. Okay, we got that. Oh, yeah! A 2-person Walmart raft complete with air pump and paddle. You gotta have that, right? Throw that down. Oh, yeah. Peter Vella box of wine. Full box of red table wine and I'm not talking the Boda box either. I'm talking the full big box of wine. And you then pull out my iPad full of downloaded movies because you got to have that. Okay, finally, we're at the bottom. Feminine hygiene product. Nope. Let's try this again. Feminine hygiene product. Nope, nothing. But what it did have is a small hand towel, which I gave her. And so we had to go Oregon Trail, a Little House on the Prairie with it to help me out. It was bad. It was really bad. So she grabs her sleeping bag and walks about 20 yards down the trail to where the sun is just coming and hitting there. And she crawls in that sleeping bag and she gets in the fetal position and she pulls that string over the top and she's just in there. She just wants to feel better and try to get whatever's going on under control. While she's doing that, in the meantime, I'm freaking blogging, doing my thing, And of course, the wind is blowing like it normally does at Alpine Lakes. And right off the trail there's this huge boulder. I'm going behind the boulder for a windbreak. So I go back behind there, and I've got my machete, and I'm just whacking away at some branches, right? And I start whittling myself a hot dog stick, and I'm all proud of myself. I'm back there, I'm like, if I was a villain, I'd call myself the Whittler. Yeah. And then, of course, I get my little butane stove going, and then I put my hot dog on the stick, and I start roasting my hot dog, okay? Get my hot dog roasted, and then I put my wiener in between my buns. Nope. I take my hot dog and I stick it between the bun, and then I get my ketchup. And I really, really like my ketchup. And so I'm like, and I'm like thinking, just putting the ketchup on, and I'm like, oh, you know what ketchup I wish I had right now? I wish I had the Sriracha hot spicy ketchup. And you know what else I really like? I really like the fancy ketchup. The fancy ketchup is the one with the bow tie. So I get my hot dog all lathered up with ketchup, and I go and I take a bite of that hot dog, right? It was delicious. And then I look down, all that ketchup was all over my new, nice, white, quick, dry shirt that I had bought. And of course, I don't have a hand towel. And so I'm like, trying to get it off, and it's just smearing all over my chest, and I wipe it all over my hands. During all this time, I hear voices, no, not in my head, but coming down the trail. Oh, no. It appears that it's a family. I see male in front, female in the back, 2 kids. And I think that they should meet me because I am a very inquisitive hiker. So they're walking by on the other side of this boulder, and I jump out in front of them, and I'm like, "Hi, I'm Jesse, nice to meet you." Pro tip, don't do that. You will get shot, or at the very least, bear sprayed. So here I am standing in front of these. The guy takes a step back. I have my machete, and I have all this ketchup all over my new, nice, white shirt. And the wind is blowing, and the guy is kind of sitting there, just kind of looking at, kind of sizing me up. And I'm like, "Oh, what the fuck is this guy?" You know, I'm being nice. I got, you know, and he yells at me in this very thick Scottish accent. "Are you here by yourself, lad?" Oh my God. And of course, the wind is blowing, and I'm like, "Yeah, no, I'm not." And I got my machete in my hand. "That's my girlfriend right over there in that sleeping bag." And then him and his family take 2 or 3 complete steps back, and then it dawns on me what they think they are seeing. They are seeing a sociopath with a machete covered in blood, and then they think they see a body in this sleeping bag. To make matters worse now, a blood stain is starting to appear on the outside of the sleeping bag. And then I am like, and then there's she's moaning a little bit too, because she's in pain. She is hemorrhaging, is what is happening. And so I'm like, I realize what's going on. I'm like, no, I am not a serial killer. I promise you that she is just having some very severe lady problem. As a matter of fact, like, don't you let me take you and your family down. We'll go down, I'll introduce you. It'll be great. So they reluctantly kind of follow behind me. As we are getting close to the sleeping bag, I go, "Hey, Gertie, say hello to the nice people." And from the inside of the sleeping bag, you hear this very annoyed voice say, "Hello to the nice people!" So we get them down to the lake, and very, very nice people. It was a family from Scotland who was here. They wanted to come see our beautiful Cabinet Mountains, and I have a feeling their kids are still getting therapy to this day. We're almost done. So they leave. Time is going by, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried now because we're losing daylight. We need to make a decision: stay or go. Gertie gets out of the sleeping bag. She comes up and tells me, "I can't walk out. I'm in too much pain. This is horrible." And then when she tells me that, then I'm like, start really worrying for our safety. I'm very, very concerned now. Why, you may ask? Because the amount of blood that's lost. And if you know as well as I do, blood is going to attract bears. A bear's scent is 7 times greater than that of a bloodhound, and 2,000 times greater than that of a human's. So in other words, if there's a predaceous bear in the area, we're screwed. The other problem that we had was we only had one tent. And so when I asked her where she planned on sleeping that night, because she had to be at least 100 yards away from the tent, she did not think I was funny. Around this time, a young couple from Thompson Falls, Kate and Kevin, come walking up the trail. Super, super duper nice people. And I explained the situation to them. They were cool. I asked Kate, "Hey, do you have anything that might be able to help?" No, I don't. And then I said, hey, do you mind if we set up camp with you in case this turns into an emergency? I can run down in the middle of the night, get hold of search and rescue. Search and rescue can get a hold of Two Bear Air. Two Bear Air can fly in from Kalispell, and we can get her life flighted out to safety. Sure, absolutely, no problem. They had a caveat. We had to go to the upper lake, and the lake was a half mile more. And in the world of hiking too, if you had a constant complainer or somebody who's always asking how much further, it's always a half mile more, just so you know. So anyway, we get up there, we get camp set up. We stay the night. She stops bleeding. We head into camp. We headed back into Libby early that morning. Everything was good, so we thought Monday morning ER, Tuesday emergency hysterectomy. All this was caused from an IUD. So yeah, there's that bloody good story, right? So really quickly, I told you the second most asked question that I get is, have I ever had a Bigfoot encounter? The first most asked question that I get is, aren't you afraid of them grizzly bears? Aren't you afraid that they're going to get you and kill you? That's kind of a loaded question. I would say when I first started, absolutely I was. But like anything, the more you do it, the more comfortable that you get. The more comfortable you get surrounded, the more confidence that you get. So the thought of a grizzly bear is no longer at the forefront of my mind. It's right back here in this gray matter here. If you're going to go out there and just be worried all the time whether you're going to get ate or mauled by a black bear or a grizzly bear, you're just not going to have a really good time. I can tell you this about bears. A bear has never broke my heart. A bear has never murdered my best friend. A bear has never pulled a gun or a knife on me. And a bear has never told me it loves me and then goes sleeps with my best friend. So at this stage in my life, I trust the bear more than... You guys are great people. You guys are awesome. But people are individuals, and you're at your own free will. Bears are just animals, and they're going to do what bears do. One last thing, I never want to get so comfortable backpacking solo that I forget whose house I'm in, and that would be Mother Nature's house. And I would even argue she's not really a mother at all. I would say that she's kind of a cruel stepmother. What I mean is she will tolerate you long enough, and then she will kick your ass out. Don't believe me? Ask the people of Pompeii. And don't go around giving your money to these special interest earth firsters. They're just arrogant humans thinking that they can control Mother Nature. All right? Mother Nature's been taking care of herself for a long time. And when she's done with us, she's going to stop feeding us, she's going to stop giving us water, and she's going to stop giving us clean air to breathe. Fun fact. 25 species go on it's extinct daily. We want to save the planet. We can't even save ourselves. So you might as well kick back, smoke a little weed, have a little whiskey, and enjoy the ride. And in the words of the prophet George Carlin, the planet's going to be fine. The people are going to be fucked. And with that, thank you so much for coming out, and appreciate your time. All right. About an hour?